All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. And regular listeners, here we go. Here we go again. You guys have heard some absolutely incredible stories of kind of redemption coming back from the fog. Just things that make it so you as a listener make it so you know it's possible to move another day. And that's what I pride myself on when it comes to bringing the people that I bring on the show. I vet them out, I listen to them very carefully, and today we have yet another great, absolutely gem of a person who you will be happy that you tuned into. His name is Carlo Taormina, and he's currently a peak performance coach. But again, it did not happen overnight. There were a lot of things that he actually lived through in order for him to even be on this show to share his story, share his gems. So, with all that, Carlo, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aswan. I'm super happy to be here. This is the best way to end my night. And I know I say that a lot on the other podcasts I go to, the best way to do the day, but honestly, it is. It's just the ability to share the story, share the
Yeah.
message, help to impact people. So it really is a blessing, and I just can't thank you enough for letting me be on the show.
Yes, and you like I said, you do have a story that's incredibly it was crazy listening to you on other shows because of how much your story resonates with mine as a former fitness guy, somebody that currently lives in West Palm Beach, somebody that, when I first saw Tony Robbins, I first saw him like 5 years ago now, when right before COVID. From that time, I've written 5 books and things were really struggling in my life when I first heard that make you move, make you move, make you move. When I first heard that, my whole mind, my whole state flipped. So, with that, let's just start there. You were at one point you were like a physical personal trainer. What got you into the industry and how to help people and be physically fit? And let's just kind of go from there, man.
Yeah. So, honestly, I kind of stumbled on it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I remember when I was a kid, all I really wanted to do was help people. I just never really understood how I was going to do it necessarily, right? So, throughout my teenage years, any opportunity I had to help somebody, I would do it. If I see someone on the side of the street, I would give them a buck. I would give them a meal. I would just try my best to do anything that could help people. Now, as I'm growing up, I'm working in my family's restaurant business.
Right.
And obviously, that's not the route I wanted to take. In fact, I hated it. And I'm looking for the best way to help people,
Hmm.
right? And when I'm about like 18 years old, I just discovered fitness just for myself, right?
Right.
My brother and I were doing it at the same time.
Hmm.
I'm learning nutrition. I'm just learning on what it's like to be a healthy person, what it's
Yeah.
like to lift, the proper ways, the mechanics. I just got obsessed with it.
Hmm.
It was just something that like, it was like a hobby that I just became obsessed with. Just like people become obsessed with music, people become obsessed with,
Right.
drawing. Like it just
Right.
that was the thing that really hit me.
When
So
you,
I just
especially when you see the results, right?
Absolutely. And when we get those newbie games, like you don't stop. Like you
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
keep
When you
going.
start looking good, it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna definitely go keep doing this. Mhm.
And I just loved it every step of the way. Like everything about it. People say like, oh, I hate going to the gym. Like I was the exact opposite. I love doing it and I still love it.
Right.
So we kind of fast forward a little bit and I'm in my 20s, like early 20s. I'm just like, you know what? I want to kind of marry these two concepts, so to speak. I want to be able to help people. I love doing that. And I love fitness.
Hmm.
Let's just put them together, right?
Right.
So I got my certificate to be a personal trainer, and around it was weird timing, because I'm working in a gym, but all
Hmm.
of a sudden COVID comes, and
Right.
all the gyms are closed for a period of time in
But
2020.
what gym was it?
Um, it's kind of like a local gym here in Virginia. It's called
Mhm.
American Family Fitness. It's like a franchise, but there's only like 5 branches. It's not like a nationwide gym.
What part of
Um,
Virginia?
I'm in Richmond.
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland.
Oh, really?
I grew up in Maryland. I used to work at used to be a D1 training and therapy in Chantilly, and I used to work there. So I know that area.
Oh, what part of Maryland are you from?
Silver Spring,
Okay, my fiance's from Bel Air.
Bel Air. There you go. I've been there actually. That's farther from me, but yeah, Maryland. DMV. We got DMV folks on, baby.
No, we're on DMV.
Let's do.
I want to honestly. I'm thinking about moving to maybe going down to South Florida. You know what I mean? I
Well,
got some friends
yeah,
there.
that's what I tell people. Once you get a whiff of these palm trees, and yeah, it's hard to go back. It's hard. It's hard to go back.
I don't blame you. One of my best friends, he used to live in West Palm. My
Mhm.
parents live in Naples, so I'm like, my parents are down there. Maybe Florida. At least get a second house there.
Mhm.
Um, but
And it's
anyway,
actually no, well, it's actually important. I'm glad you brought them up because it is important to mention that I think I was listening to you on a previous show, and you were talking about
yeah.
how your father had the story of coming in as an immigrant and kind of building his lifestyle, building his family up. Like, do you think that that played a role at all in you wanting to help people at all, just having this desire to help people a little bit?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say, my dad's story coming to America, like the American dream, kind of made me want to help people, but it did definitely teach me a lot. Like it taught me
Right.
like anybody can make it, anybody can
Yeah,
do something great,
exactly.
right? Anybody can come from humble beginnings. Doesn't matter where you're from, all that matters is where you're going. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So that's the biggest lesson I took from my dad and my mom too. Both of them immigrated at different ages, of course, but that's the biggest thing I learned from my dad when he kind of jumped across the pond.
Hmm.
He came with nothing, and now this dude is, retiring with the
You
palm trees
just
in
said, yeah,
Florida.
that's what you just said Naples, Florida. I'm like, okay, he must got it together for
Yeah,
real.
he did something right. He did something
Right.
right. But yeah, so I was working for this gym, and then COVID happened, and for a period of time, COVID shut down the gyms for most of that year, and then I already had this idea in my head. I was like, you know what? I mean, I'm not going to work in the gyms forever. Like, I'm going to have my own business, my own online trading business. That was like the end game at the time. So I was like,
Right.
might as well just start it now. I mean, people can't go to the gyms
Yeah, that's what a
already.
lot of people are doing. Right.
People still want to train, so let me do that.
Right.
So I'm building this business very slowly. This is like mid 2020,
Hmm.
maybe like in April. And eventually the gyms are starting to slowly open back up. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, this business isn't doing exactly what I want it to be doing.
Right.
Um, I'm still working in the restaurant because that was still open the entire COVID time because it was like
Mhm.
essential, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm like, I don't want to work in this restaurant. Let me see what I can do with the gyms opening up now. I found this management position for a gym. This is like an Anytime Fitness, was
Yeah.
big name brand. I was like, okay, let me just run this gym
Hmm.
simultaneously while I try to run my business. And towards the end of this year in 2020, this is where like everything went to crap.
Yeah.
Like this is
Everything
where I
was
was
shut
my
down.
hell
Right.
week.
Right. Right.
And that's where, in the span of 7 days, I lose this job as a manager at a gym. I got fired from this job.
Right.
My
Now, was it
business,
COVID? Was it COVID related? Was it just they couldn't afford to have you?
yes and no.
Hmm.
So again, this is my personal reasoning.
Right.
My manager didn't really have or the owner of the club didn't really have a solid answer
Right.
because it actually wasn't his club. It was like his father-in-law's club.
Yeah.
But
There's a
what
lot of
happened?
that bullshit in the fitness industry too. So, I mean, if the listeners who haven't been in fitness, that's kind of a normal thing. I mean, I've done
There's
a
so
lot of
much.
times. Yeah.
No. So I was a manager of this club, right? And of course, part of my duties were to sign up memberships, and I would pass them along to my buddy, right beside me, who would secure personal training if they wanted personal training.
Exactly. Right.
But the thing is, though, is that most people who came to my office were canceling their memberships
Hmm.
as opposed to signing up because people were so petrified of COVID,
Hmm.
right? So money is going out the door,
Hmm.
and anytime that somebody did come in the door to sign up, like the appointments I had were very minimal. I might have had like maybe an appointment a day,
Yeah.
and they'd be no shows,
Yeah.
right? But then I would get some walk-ins that would come in, and I'd sign them up, right? So for my track record, my sales record for the club, I was doing well,
Hmm.
but there had to be a scapegoat. There had to be
Yeah.
somebody to put the blame on, right? So I hate playing the blame game, saying, "Oh, it wasn't my fault."
Hmm.
Could I have done things better? Probably, yeah.
Right.
But that was my take on that situation.
Right.
But I mean, it was probably the biggest
Got to be
blessing
a
that happened to
blessing.
me.
Yeah. You just beat me to it. It turned out to be a blessing. So now you're not stuck with
Absolutely.
Anytime Fitness.
Oh God, I'm so glad I'm not at any type of.
Right. Right.
And yeah, my the same week,
Uh-huh.
my business is taking a turn for the worse. I'm losing money. I'm spending more money than I'm making. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going into debt, and I don't have a job. So I'm like freaking out that I don't have money and I'm not making any money. And this is right before Christmas, right before my
Right.
birthday, like the best time to be thinking about money,
Right.
right? When everything's just going out.
Yeah.
Um, and then to add insult to injury, I went through a very serious back injury. I went through a herniated disc in my L5S1 vertebrae,
Hmm.
and it hurt like a bitch. Like I couldn't walk for a period of time, and being the fit guy who needs to move and be active,
Right.
I can't do that. I'm just laying in bed like a vegetable. Any like little turn here and there just really, really hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that I'm only trapped with the thoughts in my head was not a good place to be.
Right.
Then to end things off in that span of 7 days is I was seeing this girl at this time. We were this lovey-dovey couple. Carlo, let's get married, let's have kids. She was saying all these things. I was like, wow, okay, this is serious. This is legit.
Mm-hmm.
I will, put just as much of investment in this relationship as she is right now because
Mm-hmm.
this feels like the real deal.
Yeah.
She calls me in the same week and she's like, hey, Carlo, let's break up. And I was like, throw me a bone, like give me something, give me a break.
Right.
And with all of these things happening all at once,
Right.
I'm just like, you know what? What's the point of trying to help people? What's the point of trying to be so successful? What's the point of trying to make something for myself
Right.
if literally nothing I do works?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything I touch is literally turning into dust and I can't take it.
Right. Yeah.
So I did this like bird's eye view or aerial view of my life essentially. And I was just like, there's no point anymore. Why continue if I am literally just a loser, a failure? I'll never amount to anything. And then the limiting beliefs and the self talk started.
Right.
And then from that point, I started to create a story. And
Mm-hmm.
that story was I have no purpose. I suck. I don't have meaning. There's no fulfillment. And that's the story I played in my head for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Believing in this story just kept me in bed for a year, just laying down in bed every day, not doing anything.
Hmm.
I cut off communication with my family. I didn't talk to my friends. Meanwhile, I still lived at home with mom and dad,
Right.
and I'm not talking to them. So I just I just felt like so embarrassed. I felt
Yeah.
ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt, Carlo is this high achiever, this ambitious guy, this the
Yeah.
successful person, the guy who doesn't quit.
Right.
Knowing that my external world did not reflect what I held of myself internally felt like an identity shift.
Right.
I was like, am I lying to myself? Maybe I'm not all these things I said I was. And facing this reality I saw before me, I was like, wow, maybe I really am just some loser.
Hmm.
And that's what I believed, and then going off of this story, going off of this belief, going off of this potential, this reality I saw for myself,
Right.
I was like, if I have no future, what's the point of continuing?
Hmm.
Right. So I was now developing this suicidal mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I just saw no point. I didn't want to take that decision, but I knew I didn't want the pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I need to do it because this is just going to continue and I can't bear it. Every day is a struggle and every thought is a triggering thought. And, I can't distract myself but so much.
Mm-hmm.
Would watch TV, I would play video games, listen to music, do anything to distract myself, try to sleep as much as possible, even though I actually got less sleep. I got the exact opposite, which was the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to a point toward the end of, we're nearing the end of 2021, where I was like, okay, I think it's time to end my life.
Hmm.
So I'm in my bedroom. Meanwhile, my parents are downstairs, not knowing what's going to happen. Like they just don't know anything. And I'm at this threshold, so to speak, of living and dying.
Hmm.
And I'm like, all right, here we go. You know, and I take this gun I had and I'm about to, do what I'm about to do,
Hmm.
and I just can't do it. I'm in a panic attack. I'm so emotional. I'm crying. I'm freaking out. I just couldn't go through with it. And then this idea occurred to me that says, you know what, Carlo, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it will be someday. So, do what you got to do.
Hmm.
But I still had that in the back of my mind. It was a weird uh, safety blanket, safety net, right? Where it gave me comfort knowing that my pain will be ending soon, just not today.
Hmm.
And it was just a weird place to be. Um, and no one knew about it except me. And that feeling of loneliness only grew more. You know what I mean? So now we're in November
Hmm.
of 2021, right in the beginning, and my family, my mom's like, "Hey, you should come out to lunch with us. So let's do something different. Let's change the routine." I'm like, "No, leave me alone. I don't want to do anything." And eventually they talked me into it. I go out to lunch with my family, and it was very awkward, for a guy who doesn't want to leave bed, going out in public and like facing people, especially his family, when he's embarrassed, ashamed, and I was about to do something that they didn't even know about. Like I just felt so awkward and more depressed, to be honest with you.
Right.
And it's very, very weird because I'm sitting at this dinner table or lunch table, I'm sorry, and my family's talking with everyone else, like they're getting along, and I'm just essentially, it feels like I'm by myself,
Hmm.
like this invisible man, and eat my little salad, do my thing, and not talking to anybody. And then towards the end of the meal, my brother was like, "Hey, you rode here with mom. We're all going to the house anyway. You should come ride home with me."
Hmm.
Sure, you got it. We ride home, we park in the driveway, and then all of a sudden, we have this like 10-minute conversation that leads to a feeling as if it has lasted forever, right? It's like somebody took the click remote and pressed pause, and it's just like time stood still.
Yeah.
And my brother puts the car in park, and he just looks at me. He says, "All right, man, what are we gonna do? You know, we've tried everything. We don't know what else we can do for you. You didn't want to do therapy. We mentioned it, you tried it, that didn't work. You know, I've tried to think of all these other ideas, but Carlo, I don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. I feel like I lost my brother. Mom feels like she lost her son. Or
Hmm.
your sister feels like she lost her brother. What are we gonna do here?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "There's nothing you can do. Trust me, I've tried everything I can think of. If there is something new, I would have tried it."
Right.
So, needless to say, is I don't think that there is anything that's going to work for me. So you should just give up because
Hmm.
I already did. So there's no point for you trying. And obviously, he didn't want to hear that. So he asks me, or he tells me, he's like, "Okay, look, Carlo, I'm your brother, and I would do anything for you.
Hmm.
You're my brother. Would you do anything for me?" Of course, that's just like the family response. That's the brotherly response. I say, "Yeah, of course I would." "Okay," my brother says, "I have a favor I need from you. Can you do it for me?" And I was like, "Okay, I didn't think you'd be asking for it that soon. What do you need? What's this favor?" And he's like, "I need you to go on a trip. I need you to get out of here. I need you to do something different because
Hmm.
obviously what we're doing now isn't working." And in my head, I'm thinking this guy's stupid. I'm like, "You want me to go on a trip, go on a plane, go to God knows where? You know
Hmm.
how hard it was to go to the Cheesecake Factory with you all, eat a freaking salad, like leave
Right.
bed, and now you want me to go on a plane to
Right.
Costa? Like, no, I can't do that."
Hmm.
And then what he says to me, he's like, "Okay, I hear you. But Carlo, think about this. What do you have to lose at this point?"
Hmm.
That hit me like right in the face. And I was like, huh, okay. Now I'm processing this question.
Hmm.
And honestly, he's right. I have nothing to lose.
Hmm.
I'm literally at rock bottom. At least that's what it feels like to me. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just take one more last attempts? Why don't I take a leap of faith and see what happens? Worst case scenario, I can still clock out, right? And that was again my mindset. I was like, that's my safety net, that's my backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
So before I even respond to him, I'm like, okay, what he's saying makes sense. And then two things happened. And I honestly 100% credit these two things from to put me on the path to finding this breakthrough,
Yeah.
right? The first thing was I remember just saying to myself over and over again, like internally, like a mantra, like just I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to go. I just kept saying this over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I shifted my focus just slightly. I just normally I would focus on the me who was suffering, the version of Carlo who was laying in bed every day, depressed, suicidal. But I wasn't thinking about him anymore. Just for this minute, I shifted my focus to the Carlo I wanted to be. You know, the successful Carlo, the entrepreneur, the person who's helping people,
Mm-hmm.
the happy Carlo. And I just kept focusing on him. And then the second thing that happened was I imagined I struck a match from a matchbook,
Mm-hmm.
and this tiny little flame sitting on the end of it. And this tiny flame I thought represented the real version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Happy Carlo, the very energetic goofball, right? The guy who would take his shirt off his back to help you, give it to you. And excuse me, even though the real version of myself was so small, just like a flicker of light on this match,
Mm-hmm.
I knew the real version of myself was alive deep down somewhere. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't dead yet. He was just a flickering light. And this match sat in my gut. And I was like, okay. I just kept focusing on this match, this flame. And the more I focused on it, it grew to at which point I felt like a human torch, right? I felt like I'm just this big fireball. And I have this energy all of a sudden. And I look at my brother, I said, okay, let's do it. And then now he's getting excited. He's like, okay, you know, where do you want to go? I don't know. You know, we're in Virginia, mind you. So around November, sometimes it's a little cold. So I'm like, there's no point of going somewhere else that's cold. Let's go somewhere warm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do you want to go? I don't know, Florida. Just the first thing that pops in my mind. Okay, Florida it is. When do you want to go? And I said, you know what? Soon. Okay, do you want to go alone or come with me? What's the deal?
Mm-hmm.
Please come with me. If I go alone, I'll probably just like lay in the hotel room all day. Like you need to come along. You need to
Yeah.
put me in check.
Exactly.
Okay, Carlo, you got it. Don't worry about a thing. I'll send you details tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Sunday. I get a text that night with plane tickets to West Palm Beach, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know where West Palm Beach, Florida was. My brother didn't know where West Palm Beach, Florida was. He just picked it because literally it sounded really cool. It sounded attractive and sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason why we're going there. And our plane leaves on a Tuesday.
No
So,
plan, just go, go to a hotel, no event, just
yep,
decide to go.
yep. We picked the flight. Well, he picked the flight, picked the hotel, and that was it. You know, no beachfront hotel, just like some random ass hotel,
Wow.
right? And just spur of the moment. And day one, I'm filled with immediate regret. I can't stand the decision I made. We're not even in Florida yet. We're like in the Charlotte airport. I'm like, damn, why did I say yes to this?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I leave my bedroom? It was so comfortable in there. Why am I here? And my brother's trying to talk me into it, trying to psych me up. He's like, come on, we're in Charlotte. We're about to get in Florida. Like, let's get excited. This is something new.
Yeah.
It's not working. And then we land in Florida. I'm, you know, obviously not the person you want to be hanging out with at that time. I just want to go in the hotel and just lay there the whole day. Day two, same stuff, right? We're not doing anything. You know, my brother wants to rent jet skis, go to the beach,
Yeah.
go in the ocean, and then you know,
All right.
deep fish, like all this stuff.
Something, right?
And
Just
I'm just like, I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. You know, and the most exciting thing we had done to that point was we went to a local pharmacy, bought a deck of cards, and played Go Fish in the Park. that was
wow.
that was the highlight of the trip thus far.
Wow.
And you
Wow.
know, we're just passing time, doing nothing. And all of a sudden, as the day progresses, we're in front of this cafe outside on the patio, just BSing, talking about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I see this guy, my brother, put his phone down. And he's like, "Hey, get up. I booked us something to do.
Hmm.
I'm not telling you what it is. Just follow me."
Mm-hmm.
I'm full with fear and anxiety at this point because I'm like, what is he gonna have us do? Are we gonna go to the beach, go on jet skis, go in the middle of the ocean? Like, I'm scared. And I'm like, bro, what are we doing? He's like, just shut up. I don't want to hear any questions. Just walk.
Right.
All right, fine. I know how he works, so it would
Yeah.
be a waste of
Know your
just to
brother
keep.
at this point, right? He's not taking over that. So he already got you a much.
No, 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 no. He's not like that. So I'm like, all right. So we're walking, and then we're at this stoplight, like at the cross between like Okeechobee, like that main road,
I know
right?
exactly what road. Yeah.
And we're at the stoplight, and we're waiting for the light to turn green so we can cross. And I'm just taking in my surroundings. I'm just looking wherever, and I
Mm-hmm.
see this big building in front of me, West Palm Beach Convention Center.
Yeah.
Don't think anything of it. I look down at the sign sticking out of the ground, and I see Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like dumbfounded. And I look at my brother, he ain't saying shit. He's just playing dumb. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Now, I mean, he and I have always been involved in personal development. We've always loved Tony Robbins, right? Like, if you're talking about personal development, he's like the king,
Yeah.
right? So we've always admired him and his work.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I don't believe it was coincidental. I believe it was literally divine intervention because we just so happened to be in the right place, the right time, the right moment to see that this is going on right now. And my
Right.
brother literally just found it spur of the moment. Like, he was literally Googling, how to, what to do in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And like on TripAdvisor or something like that, just, oh, Tony Robbins is here. Click. Really? Bought tickets. Boom. Same day, registered.
Right.
And again, I think it was divine intervention. Now, of course, what I learned there at the seminar, definitely is life changing stuff and so
Now was
smart.
this was live? So did you do the firewalk?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got my shirt. I
Right.
got my. I've been twice. I got the shirt the second time. But yeah, I walked on the fire, man, and it was a very empowering experience.
Right. So it wasn't one of the virtual ones.
No, no, no. But it was so cool though because well, prior to the event, I'm not saying this is BS, but I was skeptical a little bit
Right.
because I was like, I hope this isn't like a concert type of event, or I hope it's not like that vacation feeling you get. You know what I mean? Like you have a good time now, but by the time you're done, it's like, okay,
Sugar
back to
rush.
reality.
Yeah, like a sugar rush. A lot of motivational speakers can be like, it's like a sugar rush. You don't really, you get the sugar rush for a couple of days, and then by the time you go back to reality, it just goes back to the way it was.
Exactly. And I was fearing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that I was wrong. I'm so glad I put forth my best foot and I tried 100%. I did what they told me to do. I played full out. I took notes.
Exactly.
And, I learned and I got a light bulb moment. My mind, like I was just thinking differently. And of course, what I learned there is so valuable and it legit helped me.
Yes.
But a big part of me saying no to depression, overcoming that, saying no to suicide, was literally getting out of bed,
Yeah.
right? So my motto, and this is what I tell my clients, this is what I tell people when I speak from stage, is it does not need to take years, months,
Mm-hmm.
weeks, days to change your life.
Right.
It all comes down to one moment that leads to one decision that leads to one action.
Right.
And that's what happened back at home in that car, in that
Mm-hmm.
conversation. A moment happened that a decision needed to be made, and then I took action. I
Right.
got out of bed, got on a plane, and then like God, the universe took care of the rest. And now I'm here. I transformed my business from personal training to more so of like peak performance coaching, transforming people's mindsets, how to be the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can go from rock bottom to top of the rock, why
Right.
can't you? Why can't someone else?
Right.
And that's what I feel like I was called to do ever since that day.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate your transparency, and I'm sure the listeners appreciate your transparency as well. And I want to make sure we don't brush over two very important points about that story. It's number one, it's a difficult task being a person that wants to help people. All right. You, like myself, have it in us where, we may build a business, we may go out and do things that want to help people. And unfortunately, people never get the flowers where they can still smell them. So even in regards to that girl you were referring to, if she had any level of decency, she at least does it over. She doesn't do it over the fucking phone. She at least has the conversation with you. Hey, let's remain friends. Let's do this. You don't just kick a man when he's down within that 7 weeks and then just say, okay, I'm fine. I've had that sort of happen, not to that level of extent. We weren't as serious, but I've had situations in where you get ghosted and you don't hear anything from anybody. But that element of helping people is what can turn people off. That's something wrong with that person. And if you're a listener that's listening in and you may have gone through some level of ghosting or some breakup in which you're like, what the fuck? I'm doing good work. I'm doing helpful things. It's nothing wrong with you. It's something inherently wrong with the person that you were trying to help. So that's number one. Second thing we got to make sure we recognize and take from Carlo's story is you got to communicate. Communication is key. I mean, he was in his parents' home, and this could have completely rocked their entire world. We are recording. I know this may be, won't be old news, but it won't be as relevant as it is now. But we're recording this 2 days after somebody tried to assassinate the former president, and it has come out that the kid who tried to kill him was mercilessly bullied. He was bullied beyond belief. The fact that a 20-year-old has a rifle and is about to take out the one of the leaders of the free world was bullied. It's clear we got to communicate better to our young people. We got to watch how we treat people. We got to watch the way in which we're interacting and we're making people feel, because we don't know how they're taking that in because they won't verbalize it. And if you're not fucking communicating, this kind of shit happens. All right. This could have been, I'm glad you're here to have this conversation. Just like glad, President Trump actually survived it, because I can only imagine what cause and what strains. And, God bless, condolences to the man who actually stepped in front of his wife and his kids and he lost his life. All that kind of stuff is affected, and it all boils down to this lack of communication. So, I want to make sure we make sure those 2 points are clearly stated, and I'm on the record saying that. And the next thing I want to get to is the good stuff, Carlo, because like you, I had that epiphany when I saw Tony Robbins. I had come into that not knowing exactly what to expect. I was a trainer like you, and I was being told by so many of the members, "You're so motivating, Aswell. You're so motivated, so motivated." But I didn't know how to monetize this shit. I'm like, yeah, I've heard of some guy named Tony Robbins, South Florida, but I never actually thought of being this guy that is speaking publicly and actually motivating them, doing like hosting workshops and just actually making people excited just to hear me and saving lives just off my words. So, the next move for me was write a book, start a podcast, do this, do that. I never actually went to become a coach. So I'd love to hear your story of when you hit that breakthrough, when you're like, make it move, when it really actually hit home. Can you walk us through the next couple of years in which you're able to turn your life around? I believe you just mentioned you are actually married now. So thank God that girl did what she did with you. Can you walk us through our next couple, like the next phase after, that unleashed after the UPW?
Yeah, of course, of course. So like within that moment, it's like I had this telepathic communication with God, the universe, whatever, and it was like, Carl, this is what you're meant to do now.
Mm-hmm.
These people who feel this lack of fulfillment, who feel like they may not have a purpose, right? They're not themselves, just like you were. You're going to help these
Yeah.
people.
Right.
So I took that message to heart. I was like, you know what? That's it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a coach. I'm gonna be a speaker. I'm gonna share my message, transform the business from personal training to peak performance. What I'm doing now, and then that was the like the snowball effect that started going down. Right. Once it got some momentum, okay, I'm shifting this part of my business, shifting this part of my business, communicating with other people, talking on stages,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it just developed. It just grew, right? Of
So
course, I'm
when you
helping.
say like switches from personal training to peak performance, what was
Yeah.
the services you were now offering as opposed to just, how to do a squat or how to do a bench? How, like, was there a specific service that you were now offering to people, or how were you approaching and telling people what
Hmm.
you do?
Absolutely. Good question. So obviously now it's not technical on like movement and fitness, but now it's more so of broken up into few different parts, right? I like to call it like those three pillars, right?
Yes.
So the first pillar is just being aware of your own patterns, your own behaviors, right?
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
self-awareness
yep.
is
Yep.
key.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean. The just being
So if
aware
you, if
of
you don't
that
know,
pattern. Right.
yeah, if you don't know what it is you're doing, how it is you're thinking, how it is you're breathing,
Mm-hmm.
how you're behaving, how do you expect to become better? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So first we establish these patterns. And then next is we obviously, and you know this from Tony Robbins, is we're gonna replace these old ones with some new patterns, right? Some new behaviors. So that way you have a tool belt, you have a toolbox, you have a play and a playbook,
Mm-hmm.
right? So next time you feel anxious, overwhelmed, insecure, not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
unfulfilled, unhappy, okay, let's pump the brakes. What is it that's happening right now? Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way?
Mm-hmm.
How am I breathing? How am I acting? Right? Now that you know what it is you're doing, you are self aware. Now you have the tool in your back pocket to use to utilize this new habit, this new pattern
Mm-hmm.
that can take place of the old one. So that way you don't have to be in this negative feeling for 1, 2, 3 weeks, months, years.
Mm-hmm.
You can destroy it instantly.
Instant. Right.
Right? And then once we have these new patterns, then comes step three, which is obviously the accountability and the sustainability is how can we incorporate this in your everyday life
Mm-hmm.
where it's not just a one and done thing, right? You go to a concert, you have fun, or you hear a motivational speaker and you have that 1, 2, 3 day, high. Then, okay, back to reality is how can we implement this in your everyday life
Mm-hmm.
where anytime you could, let's be honest, you're going to be angry 2 years from now. You're going to be sad. You're going to
Right.
have depressing feelings. Like that stuff just doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we incorporate it in our everyday lives so that way when Carlo's no longer around, he's not the coach, or I'm not hearing him speak,
Mm-hmm.
I just know what I can do, right? I can carry this with me until I'm 99.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the main bread and butter, those three main pillars and what I take people through as a coach client relationship
Mm-hmm.
so that they can also see the results they want to see and be the best version of themselves.
Now, when you talk about that accountability piece, that's a major piece, guys. All right. There's a ton of people that have gone to UPWs and they didn't get the breakthroughs because they didn't play full out. A ton of people that tell you they want to do this, tell you they want to do that, but they never actually follow up. Again, both of us are in fitness and we get those January months. I'm going to do it. You get to February, all of a sudden you don't see people, right? Do you have you figured out a way or are you incorporating the fitness component to the pillars, especially when it comes to that accountability piece? Because that's the piece that I've always looked at as the perfect opportunity to really get people through those pillars because they'll say all the things, but add a fitness component to it, they get in the habit of making sure they're doing it and showing up to work out every day and showing up to do these things. And that goes into their professional and their personal lives.
Of course. And I mean, you kind of said it yourself right there,
Yeah.
and a big part of why I still incorporate fitness and proper nutrition is because you will never be able to perform at your peak potential at your highest level if you don't take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can have a separate podcast episode just about fitness and nutrition in of itself.
Definitely can. We
You know
definitely
what I
can.
mean? But
Yeah.
like to make it short and sweet is like you
Right.
are what you, right? You
Yeah.
are what you do. More action invites more action.
Yeah.
More inaction invites more inaction. So if you're not taking care of yourself, what makes you think you can achieve the impossible, right? Or be the best version of yourself? So I do incorporate this not only to make you better, but it's a way that people can hold themselves accountable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like every other task that I give them to do, just like every other piece of homework, for example, I give them to do. It's, oh, I made a promise to myself. Can I keep this promise to myself? If
Mm-hmm.
I go to the gym 3 days a week and I make that commitment to myself, can I do that? Because
Mm-hmm.
when you do that, guess what happens? Not
Right.
only will you be feeling better, thinking better, but you're giving yourself so much more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Not only physically by the way you look, but mentally by the way you feel. And by saying, wow, I can check this off of my to-do list for today
Yeah.
or my agenda today.
Mm-hmm.
I feel confident because I did it. I said I was going to do it and I got it done,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you put all these puzzle pieces together, right? My mentor told me this, is that competence breeds confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are competent in all these different areas of your life, being able to go to the gym, right? Being able to understand what is clean eating and being able to do it consistently,
Right.
being able to be self-aware of your thoughts that lead to emotions, that lead to actions, being aware of your breath, being aware, again, we can go on forever.
Right.
But you are competent about who you are as a person, what
Mm-hmm.
you do. You can do things that make you feel better. And when you do them, you will feel confident,
Right.
right?
And that's real confidence. And I'm glad that you took us there because it's actually from Tony Robbins. There's a video that I've watched maybe not 100 times about how he met his wife Sage, and it was so profound that I could not stop watching it. He talked about how he saw someone and he just wrote a list. He got absolutely just chaotic with this list of what he wanted in a woman, what he wanted to feel, and then he started crossing off things that weren't actually a need and stuff like that. And eventually, the long and short of it is, eventually what he landed on was, who do I have to become? Who do I have to become to attract a woman like that, not just for a year or 2 years, but for the rest of my life? Who is the man that I have to become? So I would love, given what you shared earlier, if you can kind of now share how you were able to become the man you became. And then eventually, I'm sure your wife was drawn to you. You were able to become that person that said, I went through this, I grew from it, and now we can lock arms and, go forward. So I'd love for you to share that story too.
Of course, that's a good question. Honestly, that's the
Yeah.
first time someone asked me that question. It's like it's such
Told
a
you, I
good,
told you it's gonna be good, man. I was listening to you. I'm like, it's gonna be great. And this is
but
organic,
I mean, it is.
by
But
the way, listeners. This is a completely organic conversation we're having. So want to make sure we make that clear as well.
yeah, this ain't scripted. But
Yeah.
this is so good because, like you said it right there, is if you want to attract not only a person in your life, things in your life, a particular lifestyle, you need
Mhm.
to become that person that obviously lives that out, right? So for me, I remember so specifically, we're engaged right now, we're not married yet, we're gonna get married in 26, but
Mhm.
like we are essentially perfect for each other.
Mhm.
And like I just knew it. I knew it from the first day. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So it's like I remember. So me, give you context, guys. I
Yes.
am an old. I don't like online dating. I don't.
Yes.
But I did it. The first time I did it, I got not ghosted. I got
Well,
catfish. This is like years ago.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you have to like it. I hated it too, but COVID, 2020, the thing now becomes on just like virtual events. And I don't know if we can necessarily call it online dating anymore because of what
The
COVID
norm.
created. You know what I'm saying? COVID just made it so people connect online. That's just the way it's the new norm. You know what I'm saying?
And that's how it was presented to me. I was like, you know what? You're right. So let me give it one more shot. But before
Right.
I did, I was really scared because I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not good enough yet, right?
Mhm.
Because this is like, again, to kind of put it in context, is like I'm still getting healthy for my back. So I'm not looking as good. At least I don't think I'm looking as good as I normally would. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if, some girls don't like me and I'm just getting in the swing of things. I don't have a job yet. And I
Right,
don't
right.
know if these thoughts are happening again. But I was like, you know what? I am a freaking amazing.
Hmm.
And then I had made this profile, and all of a sudden I see this girl.
Hmm.
I was like, she seems fun. Bling! I
Right.
get the notification. We start chit chatting,
Hmm.
and we just hit it off,
Yes.
right? And I was like, wow, okay. I'm adopting this identity of myself of who I know I should be and who I
Right.
am for certain. I'm not
Yes.
going to be this insecure guy who
Exactly.
thinks that no one's going to like him because X, Y, and Z. Like I know who I am. I know my worth, and I know who it is I am and I'm going to be. And
Yes.
that's what I presented to her,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, fast forward almost about 2.5 years now. We're about to get married, right? We live in a house together. We got a dog, and it's like I don't know. It's just I needed to become that person. And I remember from the
Yeah.
first day I met her, like I got this rule where like I don't kiss the girl on the first day, right?
Right.
Maybe some people are different, but it's
Yeah.
like we had a good time. And I was awkward as hell towards the end of it. But I was like, hey, I got this rule. I don't want to kiss girls on the first date, but I don't know,
Right.
something about you. Can I kiss you? It was the most awkward thing ever.
Right.
But she didn't say no.
Yeah. And I want to make sure I'm giving this context as well. For you ladies, that is very important too. It's who do you have to become? What kind of spirit do you give off? What kind of light do you shine? What kind of glow do you have? Is it just a sex thing, or are you really putting yourself out there in a way where there could be a man that's really struggling and needs a help meet? Doesn't need another person to have sex with, doesn't need someone to meet at the club, doesn't need any ghetto bullshit that you bring. Who does a person need that they can help and they could build something together? That's the vibe you have to give off. All right. That is what I mean. We two people that really were against online dating, but now it's the norm. And what you're putting out there, just like I tell high school kids, what you're putting out there, it's sticking and jobs are being lost. Things are happening because that's what people are going to be looking at. And that's the new resume. So, it's important that you really present yourself in the way that you want to be presented. So love that story, Carlo. I love that story. Love everything you're about. Please, can you just talk a little bit about what you got next? What's coming down the pipeline? How can people get in touch with you? The whole thing, man. Feel free to plug away. I know there's gonna be a ton of people that want to reach out to you after they hear
Oh
this.
yeah, of course, of course. So I mean, I got a lot going on. I'm on podcasts like every single week, like consecutively during the days. So I'm so glad I
Yeah.
get to be on this awesome show. But other than that, speaking, coaching clients, right? I got a plate full, but it's a good. I don't want to say a problem, but it's a good thing to have, right? So the big thing that I want to plug into is obviously there are people out there who I hope resonated with this message that want to talk, that might have questions, right? I would love to help. And I'd love to give a complimentary coaching session. you
Right.
know, just want to talk to you, see what's up, see how I can possibly help and maybe guide you in the right direction.
Right.
So if that does sound like something that's intriguing to you and you want some additional help or some guidance, go ahead and go to my Instagram. That's the place I probably congregate the most.
Mhm.
Just send me a DM, but send me a DM with the words Move Swiftly podcast because I want to make sure you came from this podcast from Move
Yes.
Swiftly.
Yes.
Obviously,
All
show
right.
him some love.
It'll
Give me
be on
some
the
love.
show
Give me
notes
a
as
follow.
well. So
Of course, yeah.
yeah,
So
of
give us
course.
both a follow if you don't follow us right now.
Mhm.
But that's where you can hit me up, and I'll love to have a conversation with you, and we'll just take it from there.
Hey, the opportunity is there, guys. And I know you'll be struggling. I know there's things happening in life. You need that support. You need that help. You need people to just reach out to and just say, let you know, look, don't do it. Don't give up. There's a huge world. There's a lot of different people. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So, with that, Carlo, the way I close out all the shows, I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You just got off the phone with that girl after your back is broken, you lost your job, she calls you, she says it's over. I want you to pretend you just saw on Instagram with a different guy. You're struggling, you just are really actually thinking about doing it. Pretend that version of Carlo has come into the Zoom room and just give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
That's so good. That is so good. What I'll tell him is first, you're gonna think I'm speaking bullshit, but listen, take notes. I know it seems like nothing will get better. This is gonna be a cliche, but all you have to do is take it day by day. Your only job today is to live out the rest of this day.
Mhm.
Then tomorrow, do the same thing. And guess what? The next day, do the same thing. Because
Yeah.
I promise you, if you keep hanging on,
Mhm.
things will change.
Yes.
And you will thank me later. And that's what I would say.
Yes, the mic is officially dropping with that, guys. Look, take it day by day. I've said it so many times on this show. You guys, are, regular listeners, are probably tired of hearing me say it. Take it day by day. It's not your job to win the year, the week, the month. Just take it one moment, one day at a time. Wake up the next morning. I guarantee you, I can promise you, you're not going to see an ugly sunrise. There's no such thing as an ugly sunrise. It's going to be beautiful. The day before you have us over, just go out and finish that day. All right. All that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.